Hey guys, Logan here for our assignment. So my case was Graham versus Florida. The big thing about Graham versus Florida was the fact that it was the decision of the Supreme Court held that juvenile offenders cannot be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for non-homicidal case. And furthermore, a little bit implication of this for the future. In June 2012, a related case, which is Miller versus Alabama, the court ruled that mandatory sentences for life without parole for juvenile offenders, even in the case of murder, was cruel and unusual punishment. So a little background on this case: Terrence Jamar Graham, along with two other people, attempted a robbery of a barbecue restaurant in Florida. Graham was 16 at the time, and he was arrested for the robbery attempt, and he was charged with armed burglary with assault and battery, as well as attempted armed robbery. And in Florida, this is a first-degree felony punishable by life. He pleaded guilty, and his plea was accepted, and he was released and everything with his plea agreement, probably parole. I can find more details on that. And about 6 months later, on December 2nd, 2004, he was arrested again for home invasion robbery. He said he wasn't involved in it. However, he accepted the fact that, this wasn't part of my plea agreement. And then in 2006, the presiding judge over the case sentenced him to life in prison. And the issue with this was since Florida had just got rid of the parole for life offenders, he was basically sentenced to a life sentence without parole. And this obviously was challenged, taken to the Supreme Court, and they ruled that the Constitution prohibits life without parole sentence for juvenile offenders. This also has some further implications, as I mentioned before. June 2012, so just merely about 6 years later, after the initial ruling, they ruled. They had said that they wanted to make mandatory life sentences for people with murder, and the Supreme Court shot it down, saying no, that's cruel and unusual. And you look into, and if we're looking to what happened to Mr. Jamar on February 2012, so again 6 years also later, the original judge retried him, and they sentenced him to a 25-year sentence. So they even just knocked off life and said, 25 years. This is a very interesting case. It makes me think of a movie I just watched, Deadpool 2, for some of y'all. Y'all might know, might not know. It's a superhero movie. But quick, basic thing, spoiler alert, by the way. This hero named Cable comes back and wants to kill this kid because in the future he destroys everything. And Deadpool's like, no, you can't do that. He's a kid. And so me trying to think about, the reason I want to bring this up is because this guy is basically sentencing this person to, in this case, death, a little bigger than life. However, he's in his mind sentencing him to the case for what happens in the future. And is that right? Is that right for this kid who hasn't really even committed this yet to be sentenced to life? Or sentenced to death. And I look at here for this case, which involved life, and I'm really big on, rehabilitation, especially for juveniles. I'm really on the mindset that, we have these animal instincts and we're trying to survive. And when you're a kid and you might be in a bad situation and you're in a bad lifestyle, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. Whether it's you rob people, commit murder, whatever it is, if you're in that situation. The Spartans, a little history, a little fact here, they taught their kids to, if you're in enemy territory, you gotta rob, you gotta do unhonorable things in order to survive, and that was taught and bred into them. They were made to live on their own when they were like 8 years old, and they had to go out and they had to rob people, and if they got away with it, they were fine, but then if they were caught, they were beaten and punished for it, because obviously they're breaking the law. So I feel like that kind of applies here, is that he was doing what he needed to do in order to make ends meet, in order to survive. And I think sometimes you're just in bad situations and bad places at the wrong time, and you gotta do what you gotta do. In saying that, I'm not condoning saying what he did was right, but I'm saying is I think people really, it's that survival mentality. Obviously, these had implications, as I already mentioned with Miller versus Alabama, and then there was other sentence, which was first sentence was State versus Jason Means. It took place in Iowa. He committed murder, and he was sentenced to life without parole of having 90 years for the murder. He also committed kidnapping, and that was also reversed as well. So we see what this case has done to things. I mean, again, saying that they took out now that life without parole is not even allowed for murder cases for juveniles. And I think this goes back to the fact, try to rehabilitate these people. I mean, obviously, if they're too far gone and they need life in prison, that's all we can do. But that's basically the case. And like I said, Terrence Shamaro, he was resentenced by the original judge to 25-year sentence. So they end up retrying him and everything too. So he still got technically punished for what he did. If you have any questions, always leave a comment on the discussion board, and I'll get back to you. Thanks, guys.